We are live. You can probably hear some hum. I have a lot of fans going. It's super hot. I did not sleep enough last night. I didn't set up all the lighting because hot. There's some chance that this video that I'm either gonna talk really fast or slow down really badly, which fits considering the movie. Obviously, I don't know as I'm recording this exactly how that's gonna go, but maybe I'll put a brief bit in the description box about it so you'll know, so you don't have to sit through. Oh, right, I actually forgot a major part of the setup. Okay, it's not going to take a crazy long time to do it, but I'm not going to stop recording. Let's see. The audio is going to get weird if I talk once I move off camera. So I'm going to start talking as soon as I get back on camera, and I'm going to try to make it sure. Tell you what, I am going to do my very best to make sure this happens in less than 1 minute. And yeah, so here we go. And back on camera. Yeah, that was like less than 20 seconds, I think. So, yay me. I am going to try to complete the setup here as quickly as I can. I really hope this isn't going to be a thing for this entire video, but I'm pretty sure that's the only thing I forgot. So, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this without bouncing the camera, so if that's something that bothers you, and I don't blame you, look away until I say look back. Okay, you can look back. That didn't take all that long, so here's hoping that will be a theme for this video. Okay, so disclaimers. If you don't care about these disclaimers, I try to keep them short and relevant, but your mileage may vary. You can skip right ahead to the first section via the description box. This contains spoilers for the entire movie. Now, the following is a short list of movies that are similar to this, based on what IMDb says. Yeah, Speed 1, which I've watched, it's great. I have watched Speed 2, that movie sucks. And then this movie is listed as another version of the following. I haven't watched any of the following. Color Me Dead from 1969, DOA from 1988, Dead on Arrival from 2013, and DOA from 1949. So there's literally 3 movies named DOA, in addition to that one based on the video game that was, wow, that's a lot, I feel like, and 3 of them are about the same basic concept. Wow. Okay, so I record this as soon as I can get to the computer after watching the movie. This is not a review. This is a series of, well, thoughts. Some of it is analysis, some of it is MST3K, riff tracks, and other jokes, etc., especially jokes in the first section, jokes that I had while watching, thoughts that I had while watching, those in chronological order, as well as before watching, separated into the first 2 sections, time codes in the description box, and then the final section, I get into stuff I think is worthwhile. Let's get into on Rotten Tomatoes, Metacritic, IMDb, and Wikipedia. Before recording this vlog, I had read almost all of it. I did not get around to reading the IMDb reviews. I'm not 100% sure, but I ended up copying in a lot for this one. I don't even remember. I guess I didn't even say. Yeah, if you, I mean, it's going to be in the title of this video, but this is Crank Thoughts Movie. Yeah, something like that. Actually, I forget if there's anything else called Crank. But I guess the actual drug. This video is not me saying I'm smarter than you, or know more, or know better than you. The stuff I say in this video, I'm not saying only I could or have thought of it. It's just stuff I want to talk about and think others would enjoy listening to. I'm probably not going to be as fast talking once I get into it. It's just for the disclaimers. By the way, I'm not 100% certain if I'm going to do all 3 sections in this video, because it's hot. Now, I am going to be, in this video, discussing at least one issue that doesn't affect me, or doesn't affect me as much as it does certain minorities. I'm not trying to lecture those that it affects. In part, I'm speaking to others who are not in those minorities, who can better empathize with those minorities, and in part, I'm expressing my interpretation of the material without claiming it's as valid as the interpretation of members of the minorities. When I talk about the quality of what I'm doing in video, I'm going to try to strike a good balance between being appreciative of both intentions and results, criticizing things I generally feel should be criticized, and I try to judge the subject on its own terms. Clearly, this movie is not trying to be, it's a cliche to say it's not trying to be Shakespeare, but it really isn't. It's just trying to be a good time. It's trying to be fun in a way that we hadn't really seen at the time, and I honestly don't know if there's been a bunch of imitators, yeah, after this. Now, let's see. So, yes, I define a good movie, quote-unquote good movie, as one where the good outweighs the bad, and vice versa for a bad movie. This can mean a movie otherwise mostly good or bad I consider actually overall bad or good. I would say this movie is mostly good. There's only a few things that kind of speak against you know, the quality of it, but yeah, I think, yeah, great arc or whatever. I think that is kind of necessary for this movie. You see a bunch of the critics. I'm not one to whine about critics, or sorry, get upset about critics, but I do think that this is a movie that it just, like, this movie really wasn't made for critics, and it just seems like, Rotten Tomatoes does also have an audience score, and every vote on IMDb is audience, not professional critics, so that's something, and Metacritic has as well, but this really is, like, if you're in the target audience, I feel like this movie really gets very close to just, like, there's not that much that I think I would change for this, for who it's targeted at. I saw some people say, oh, it's like made by 12-year-olds for other 12-year-olds, or made by 15-year-olds for other 15-year-olds. And I just really don't think that should be a criticism. I mean, I guess I get why you would say, I mean, I guess, like, if you're a movie critic, you're told to look for positive, if you're giving, excuse me, I know, Corona, I swear, I'm gonna wash my hands and my face before I get anywhere near anybody else, don't worry. So, like, for critics, seeing something like this, especially seeing it do well, is almost like a taunt, like an insult. They're being told that this thing they care really deeply about and took, went to college to better appreciate, film, the medium of film, that people can be super happy even if you make something that's not technically speaking a good movie. But I don't think, 12-year-olds and 15-year-olds shouldn't have movies specifically geared towards them. I think an argument could be made about the offensive material, but that is I'm probably not going to be speaking that much about that. I'm not enough of an expert on most of it, I would say. But yeah, and again, like, that's where I think it does make sense, because there are things in this that can help perpetuate really harmful stereotypes. But saying, it's like what a 12-year-old would like, well, why is that a criticism? Okay, so it was made for 12-year-olds. I think it's a good idea to tell people that, because a lot of people are not, a lot of people don't like this movie, and a lot of people who might watch it wouldn't like it. But I just don't think I feel like it shouldn't be a criticism. Okay, so I I've made other, I made another video on this. I'm going to try not to restate what I said there. And I will put the link to that video in the description box. I did not pay very much money for this. And the first time I watched it, I was able to watch it for free, legally, don't worry. And thus, and I also don't feel like I wasted time on it or something. Anything negative I say in this video is not out of bitterness. I watched some YouTube videos before doing this video. I don't have a DVD with special features, so I did not watch that. The version of the movie I'm going off, excuse me, I might need to deal with that. One of the fans is set to a pretty high intensity and is directed directly at my face, which usually isn't a problem, but it might be this time. In that case, I will, change its intensity or whatever. Okay, so, but yeah, the theatrical cut. I have not watched the director's cut, which I understand you can buy through Germany. I bought the version that was cheapest. So I first watched this in the year 2011, and I haven't watched it any times in between before now, watching it today, right before now, vlogging about it. I have watched the sequel, but I'm not going to be talking about it in this video, or I don't intend to, and if I do, I'm not going to spoil anything in it. Me making jokes in this should not be taken as me thinking the thing I'm joking about is actually bad, or me wanting to make light of a serious subject, etc. I simply find it very difficult not to innocently overanalyze everything I watch. Now, I don't have a problem with violence and gore in general. I think it's one of my favorite horror movies in general. I also love Cronenberg's The Fly. I don't have a problem with film sexuality, nudity, disturbing, and upsetting material in general. Monster is one of my favorite movies. In my opinion, the only way sex can be wrong is if consent is violated and or it's cheating. Excuse me. Okay, so yes, that brings me to my own quote-unquote film critic rating for this is a 7 out of 10, and ultimately that is also my personal rating. So that brings us, before I get into it, I'm just briefly going to talk about, before I get into detail, if you're going to be able to tell pretty quickly. If you don't care about what I'm about to say, just skip ahead to the first section or whichever section you want to watch. There's a group in the US spreading fake mask exemption cards right now for people who don't want to have to wear a mask despite the COVID spike. The group referred to themselves as the Freedom to Breathe Agency. How unbelievably tone deaf do you have to be to call yourself something like that, to convince people they shouldn't have to do the bare minimum to stop the spread of one of the most contagious viruses that we've seen in modern times, at the exact same time as Black Lives Matter and its allies are mass protesting, even outside of America, specifically because of a number of cops don't think that black people do have the freedom to breathe. And sadly, it is one of those many cases where white conservative Americans don't think that black people should have the same freedoms as they do. The marches were literally started specifically because a black man was choked to death by a cop. It's unreal how I, in my country, we're not being asked to wear masks. If we were, I would wear one, no problem. If they're uncomfortable, then just, grow up. Maybe you're not going to die. You're literally not going to die from wearing a mask. That's just not a thing that's going to happen. And seriously, screw those people. Notes taken while watching. Okay, so my DVD comes with, it has the subtitles where it writes out the lyrics as you hear the music, and also when a piece of music starts playing, it will say what the piece of music is called and the band. So I really love that. I feel like that should be on every every DVD and Blu-ray. Like, I will pay if it makes it cost more money. I will pay more money. It's worth it. Great POV shot opening. I really love that the DVD. Oh, right, sorry. I'm gonna swear in this video. I'm gonna be quoting a movie, and possibly swear outside of that. I really love that the DVD he finds literally says "fuck you." That, those are the first words you see on screen. Before you hear any words actually spoken, you see that. The first just like minute or two of this movie is just like so many people have woken up not to this exact situation, but to a situation that felt like this. Once you start hearing, oh, you've been poisoned, then it stops being a universal experience. But like, you know, yeah, like hangover or the kind of thing, just like, yeah. And I quite like the way the movie uses unusual visuals and audio distortion and the like to underline like his condition, that things just feel wrong and sound wrong because of the poison. I had honestly forgotten how campy Verona is, and I absolutely love it. I am 100% here for it. They actually went ahead and made the Shakespeare reference about poisoning him in his sleep. Just, wow. I like the POV shots of the camera they set up in his house. And before Chev says a single actual word, we hear him yell just like nonsense, just like venting frustration. I love the soundtrack to this movie. Get a cell phone, honey, please. Can you spell that for me? And he spells the word dead instead of his name. Wow. And wow, they really went just as far and as stereotypical and offensive as they possibly could with the bit about what Kayla was doing the night before. Honestly, I have to wonder if there are any like trans individuals or LGBTQ in general who like watch that bit and are like, yeah, damn straight, that is how we party, and like, take it as a sort of like empowering bit instead of that. Clearly it's meant to provoke. It's meant to be offensive, but I don't know. I mean, like I can imagine the kind of person who likes Pride Parade might, you know, enjoy yeah. Very tense as all the guns are pointed at Chev. Crank, achy, breaky heart is not something you hear every single day. I like that Chev makes some really smart decisions. He does some stuff that seems random, or certainly there are a lot of things he does where it's like, well, that's the most efficient way to solve that problem. But then there are other times where it's just kind of random because yeah, like the thing about it being made for 12-year-olds, like, oh, wouldn't it be really cool and fun if we did this, but Chev makes some really smart decisions. He goes to this like 7-Eleven kind of thing, and he grabs a bunch of stuff that will keep his energy high, like energy drinks and like various stuff. The hot bikini girls pass the bodyguard, and we briefly see the bodyguard imagine them like flirting with him. It is legitimately funny just how little help the first several stops that Chev makes in this movie seem, the first several stops he makes, it seems like they don't lead to anything. He doesn't get any help. Ultimately, there is always information or coke or something, but just like, I will admit, when he goes to Orlando and Orlando's like I don't work with that guy. That's not my, you know. I'm not gonna lie. For a little bit, I was like, are you really telling me that a movie that is like 79 minutes, if you don't count the end credits, is padded? Because that would be unreal. But you know, ultimately there is always something is always accomplished in the yeah. So let's. No, it's all right. Relax. Okay, don't relax. But listen, that's not a bad line. Yeah. And the doctor repeats the name epinephrine, and it shows up on screen in text, as if Chev is looking it up in an encyclopedia or something. You know, with like the I don't know what it's called, but I think you know what I'm talking about. The font and the way it's yeah. And Chev's gun won't fire, I guess because it got wet when he jumped in the pool. Excuse me. I mean, I feel like he didn't have to kill, excuse me, Verona's brother. I feel like he could have shot him non-fatally, but, you know, they do get the cell phone. I mean, I guess he wasn't. I guess if he's not going to give the information when his. Excuse me, just real quick. If he's not going to give the information with his hand cut off, maybe no kind of torture is going to be sufficient for, yeah. And we see a cop give the, you know, of like a parking ticket or something, you know, for being illegally parked. Priorities. See, I feel like that's a pretty inspired bit. Like that's like, wow, oh boy, that sure is. Oh man, he's gonna have to pay that ticket. That's really he should have been smarter about where he parked. Just that's really funny. And funny as you know the guy in blue scrubs keeps trying to get epinephrine for Chev while you know he also has to run with the I don't know is it called a crash cart? I feel like it might be called a crash cart. Or is it crash cart what you drive in one of those Crash Bandicoot racing games? Let's see. And funny when you know he uses the defibrillator on Chev and he flies into the elevator. And Chev takes way too much of the epinephrine and starts running the moment the elevator doors open again. And that's again like that's kind of a it's a memorable bit of like first he's I don't remember I think he's on like the 12th floor or something. And at first, it's just the elevator is counting down normally. Like, you know, it takes, I don't know, 5 seconds to get from floor to floor. And then once when he injects the epinephrine, and it takes a few seconds before it really hits the system or something like that. And then when it hits, just immediately, you know. And it counts down from like 7 to 1 in maybe, I don't know, 3 seconds or something. Super quick, you know. And again, it's like that's a good kind of it's a clever little you know it's not like genius moment but it's a clever enough little you know like a countdown and then the moment that it reaches zero the moment he reaches I want to say the basement maybe he just you know goes running as if it was like a countdown to a race or something. I really love the reaction of the old couple next to the doctor on the plane as they hear the messed up stuff the doctor tells Chev. You know, the thing about the like he's got what was it like a steel hard on or something like that, and like just yeah, it's I'm not gonna lie, I enjoy Jason Statham toying with the cop, playing keep away with his gun so much more these days than I did when I first watched this movie, you know, 9 years ago. And they really, I mean, they found a guy who legitimate. I mean, this guy really looks pathetic when Statham is like, he's like, oh, come on, like, I mean, he's like 2 seconds away from like saying, my mom bought me that gun or something. Just it's, yeah. Although when it's a gun, does it turn around to being cool again? I don't know, but just yeah, they really made sure to find someone that would look ridiculous as a, this is not like, let's see, I don't know, for some ungodly reason, the first thing that comes to my mind when I want to think of like a macho cop is that time that John McGinley, I want to say, who plays Dr. Cox on Scrubs, that time he played a cop, even though that's in The Animal, the Rob Schneider movie, Jesus Christ. Okay, moving on. And Chev starts like almost like napping on the motorcycle. And he's like, well, this isn't gonna work out. So he stands up on the motorcycle so it'll be more of a rush, and then it crashes. Just, yeah, I'm not gonna lie. The misogynism of the depiction of Eve does kind of bother me. It, this thing of how she's depicted as being really dumb. She clearly doesn't understand the seriousness of the situation, despite Chev being very specific. Like they're on the phone with each other, and he literally tells her, "I've been poisoned. I'm gonna die soon." And there are killers on the way to your apartment right now to torture and kill you. And she's like, okay, well, should I make you a waffle or something like that? Just, and he actually puts his hand in the waffle iron. Man, that is messed up. I mean, it is almost sort of sweet that Chev, like, he seems to genuinely feel bad about yelling at Eve, and he does want to keep her calm and safe as at all possible. He doesn't tell her the person calling your phone is almost definitely a killer. No, he runs down and attacks the killer. And yeah, like legitimately, he seems to feel bad you know when he like yells at her. Basically he loses patience with her because she is like being, yeah, as I mentioned, she's being a little slow to realize the situation. It is kind of funny that she doesn't realize about the first several of the killers after, the bit where he spots one of the killers and he like upends her purse, so knowing that she's going to stay there and try to put everything back in her purse. And yeah, that she doesn't actually realize that the guy was there at all. You know, even after Chev has killed the guy, if or whatever he does. I forget if he just wounds him. Excuse me. I'm not 100% certain what the pigeon heartbeat bit is about. I do really find it, like, I saw several people call it out and were like, what was that about? And like, there's like a million other things. Like if you want to be upset about something in this movie, be upset about the misogyny and racism and such. The pigeon, I don't know what it's about, but it's not that, like, whatever. And I don't know exactly how to feel about the fact that when, yeah, when you see Chev spare Don Kim, that's the first time he shows compassion for anyone other than his girlfriend, and his girlfriend was also and him showing compassion for his girlfriend was also very far into the movie. Basically, the movie has spent up to this point showing him with complete disregard for everybody else, and I get, he like the urge to stay alive is obviously very strong, and certainly we saw that he meant to go. Like, we see him call her, and leave message on her answering machine. We see him buying flowers, and yeah, wow. Yeah, I'm feeling that lack of sleep right about now. Okay, I'm gonna try to. Okay, focus. Did I just make a prequel reference? Oh boy. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like maybe it should have been there earlier, or I don't know. Maybe they thought maybe Neville Dean Taylor, Neville Dine. I've always thought it was Neville Dean. Like, I don't know. Whatever. I think I'm just gonna go with Neville Dean Taylor. The maybe I'll mix it up every so often. The two of them, maybe they thought that him calling his girlfriend's cell phone so early, or yeah, the phone so early, was enough, or maybe they were like partway through or maybe they didn't go back and change the script, and they eventually, like, when they were almost done with the script, they were like, I don't know, he comes across as kind of callous. Maybe we gotta add some humanity. It feels weird that when we get to Don Kim, finally he shows compassion towards at least one person other than the girlfriend, and when he's face to face with his girlfriend, it's the first time we see, because I I don't know, I just kind of figured that the first time I watched it, I thought that he was going to be as careless around his girlfriend as he was around everybody else. I figured that it. I don't know. I know a lot of for a lot of straight guys, the one time they're a human being is when they're near their partner or a woman in their family or something. Still, it's just. I mean, he assaults people that have no, like, it would be one thing, and I think it was a conscious decision. It would be one thing if this movie was just him taking out wave after wave of Verona's men. Then we'd be like, well, I mean, shit, if he doesn't kill them, they're gonna kill him, and maybe they're gonna kill his friends or family afterward. No, he's got to kill them. But no, almost for a big chunk of the film, basically everyone he encounters, with very few exceptions. There's Verona's brother, and let's see, yeah, and Carlito's men later in the film. But, like, for most of the film, most of the people he encounters are just innocent, just civilians who have nothing to do with this. And the fact that he is so, he doesn't care if he hurts them as long as he gets to live just a little longer. And again, that's the thing. Then once you I guess that's it. Okay, yeah, I think that's it. Once you see him with his girlfriend, that's supposed to recontextualize everything we've seen up to that point. The reason he's been so mean and nasty towards these civilians is because the one person he cares deeply about is his girlfriend, and he's not gonna let anyone or anything prevent him from saying goodbye to her, basically. That's, I guess, the idea. I gotta admit, I feel like that could have come across stronger in the movie because I'm only now realizing it. But I guess that almost must be the idea. I mean, they could so easily have gone, like, yes, eventually, you know, there's the sex scene. I think I will save basically all my comments about the public sex scene for the next section. But the he doesn't go to his girlfriend to have sex. He goes to her to protect her. And the idea for them to have sex I mean, that's essentially, it's almost a sort of last minute, like, he doesn't have the energy drinks. He doesn't have, you know, what is he going to do? He doesn't have the drugs and all that this stuff. So, you know, that's basically the one thing he can think of. Although I did actually hear once that getting into a really, like a really big, passionate verbal argument with your partner actually gets like your system going even more than sex, but I guess they thought that wouldn't be as fun of a scene. But yeah, I mean, I think the idea is supposed to be that, you know, up to that point we thought he was just this merciless hard ass, but then when we see him with his girlfriend, no, he just wanted to make sure that he would be able to keep her safe. And then you have the thing with the thing, the Don Kim, sparing Don Kim, and that tells us that he actually used to be even more of like a ruthless, yeah. I will say I saw some people say it has a thin plot. I mean, it really isn't supposed to be about that. It's supposed to be like, if you want to criticize the movie for something, say that you thought that it didn't manage to keep up the pace and energy, or that, you know, things like that. That would be something that would actually be an interesting criticism to Neville Dean Taylor. They weren't trying to make a complicated plot, you know. I personally think that you get enough information up front. You know, Chev watches the Fuck You DVD, and that's enough information. You know, okay, so he used to be, yeah, actually at that point we think he still is. You know, Chev is an assassin. He killed the wrong guy. This other guy who basically wants his job is, you know, he poisoned him as to get revenge for the guy he killed. And let's see, and the scene also introduces us to Verona's brother. So later, when, I gotta admit, I didn't realize he was his brother at that point, but whatever. You know, later on, we we find out that they are also brothers. But when we're told, you know, when Kalo is like, oh, I know where Verona's brother is, it's like, there's like a, actually, I think, yeah, almost immediately we do see the like flashback. I want to say it is to the Fuck You DVD. I forget. Excuse me. So the the thing with the thing and the thing, the Don Kim DVD. Right. Yeah. When Kalo calls about Verona's brother, it doesn't come out of nowhere. Okay. Back to the specific in chronological order notes. The Haitian thing is super racist. The guard up there on the rooftop whining about the guy calling him and saying, I'm not babysitting. That's pretty funny. Like, you know, this is the kind of scene, we've seen this scene a million times in so many different movies. You know, the protagonist is sneaking up on a guy who's clearly working for the bad guy, and just, you know, so many of these scenes are just like, there are no words. They have no words, or the what's being said is just boring. But just the fact that, you know, he's coming out, you know, he's calling, you know, obviously he's being called like, where the fuck is Chad? Where, you know, and he's like, what? I'm supposed to be babysitting. I'm standing on the rooftop just like they told me, and just, yeah. I can't quite figure out if using Kalo as a human shield is more or less disrespectful now that he's already dead, since, you know, I feel like usually human shields are from before they die, or at least at first before they die, but just like, you know, it's like if they're alive, you're risking this person's life, but if they're dead, you're like desecrating their body. I don't know. I don't know which is considered worse. You know, I feel like I would rather you know, if like the obviously if the situation either involves me dying or not dying, obviously I would rather not die. But if it's gonna be, yeah. Anyway, good twist that Carlito is the one who put, you know, who caught Kalo. We really expected that to be Verona, and we didn't expect to see Eve show up at the shirt factory, but she did overhear the location when Chev got the information on the cell phone. You know, he repeated it out loud. I don't remember the name, but he said, okay, that place at the corner of this and that. Okay, and she even says, what's at that corner? So she knew. And as soon as Eve really accepts about the poison, immediately she tries figuring out what to do to help keep him alive. It's, you know, it's very, very sweet. And I actually I really quickly want to say I I I like the smash cut of when he's trying to tell her what, you know, the reality about the hit on Don Kim and him being an assassin and all this stuff. And then, you know, smash cut and she's like, are, you know, do you realize how ridiculous this sounds? If you wanted to break up with me, you could have just told me the truth. You know, it's stereotypical for and misogynistic, but it's a good effective smash cut. I guess what I'm trying to say is I respect the craftsmanship, and I kind of like apparently Neville Taylor before this they were like making music videos, and you know, so basically they had like all these, they were used to getting, you know, crazy shots and using this weird stylization and such, but then they were like, hey, let's make a movie where we use these kinds of, you know, and it is like, I mean, yeah, the kind of what's the word, I don't know, I feel like they have something interesting to bring to the table, although I don't know. Didn't one of the last movies they make, didn't that like bomb like crazy? So I'm not sure if we're gonna see more of them. But you know, for a little while they added a little bit of flavor to the. But I mean, it doesn't feel like, you know. I mean, first of all, obviously not every director who started out making music videos ends up feeling like a music video director, because that's something, you know, you sometimes forget. David Fincher started out making music videos, and his movies do not feel like, you know, but then you have someone like McG, who, I'm sorry, I know I haven't watched every movie he's made, but I did watch Terminator 4 as well as both of his Charlie's Angels movies. No, I don't know why either. I guess I felt like at some point this must get good, just like by the law of averages or something. At some point this has to get better, right? The man is incapable, as far as I've seen, of making the audience care even a little bit about any character. He can make us be like, oh, that's kind of cool, but I've never seen him make, you know, yeah, he cannot make us care about characters. Anyway, but yeah, you know, someone like Zack Snyder, sometimes it feels like he is basically making, you know, directing each scene like it's a music video. Neville Dean Taylor, they don't really feel like they're still making music videos. They feel like they've brought music video sensibility to full-length movies, but like, yeah, I was about to list the movies I've seen of theirs, but honestly, I'm going to get to that as soon as I'm done with this section. They do a pretty decent job of making it make sense that, you know, Chev and the Doctor don't get to be in the same place before near the end of the movie, since the Doctor telling him that there is nothing he can do to keep him alive for very long is something that should only happen near the very end of the movie. You know, it really is like let me think. Okay, that was more than a second. Crap, I'm running out of time. I need epinephrine. Anyway, the that revelation, once you have that, it's like, well, I mean, at this point, okay, so he goes to kill Verona so he can get revenge. That's it. There's nothing else. And they didn't want to make a short film, so because of that, he isn't able to reach the Doctor until near the very end of the movie. It is very satisfying seeing Verona be incredibly angry at Chev on the phone. Like taking his frustration out on the cell phone itself, hitting it against like was it like the seat in the car or something like that. I do feel it's a little weird when Chev says something like he calls him penis like instead of dick or cock or something. I don't know. Excuse me. So, since Chev was told that there is no antidote, when he basically doesn't believe that he will be back alive for Eve. So it's not that he actually believes what he's saying to her. He's just not willing to tell her to her face that he's going to die soon. And I get that some people think that that's somehow this sweet romantic gesture, but she should be allowed to say goodbye to him. It's like if you respect her enough to be with her, respect her enough to tell her the truth about something like that. And if you don't respect her, then you shouldn't be dating her. It's pretty. I guess I'm gonna go with interesting. That bit where Chev keeps imagining the Asian guy as different people in his life, including himself and his mother. The finger gun is pretty funny. I mean, it makes no sense. It's like the moment that you think about it for 2 seconds, it makes no sense. But yeah, how unreal is it that like an Expendables movie took something from you know yeah, and made it actually make sense. That really was, or make more sense, really. And it is legitimately like it's a amusing scene where Chev gets to the top of the skyscraper thingy and is like talking to Carlito and Verona, and then you have the finger gun thing and this whole thing. Like, obviously, this should feel like big. It should feel like more of a big deal. It shouldn't feel like just another stop on the road. As like it is a series of stops on the road. It's a long line of Chev going to different places to accomplish just like one thing each place, and then moving on to another place, and escaping from people chasing him from place to place, and this sort of thing. It would really be a big disappointment if this last bit also just felt like another. But no, it's like it brings closure to Carlito, Verona, and Don Kim. Like, and excuse me, and obviously the idea is supposed to be that the closure with Eve, we already got that because he said goodbye to her, and then there's also he leaves the message for her, but the yeah, and Verona actually gives him a second dose, and then he kills Carlito from like machismo and a frail ego. That's like, wow. That, like, I mean, Carlito wasn't even saying there's no more room on this helicopter. There's not room on this helicopter for both of us. No, he just up and kills him. But yeah, let's see. And the helicopter fight and free fall are legitimately like memorable. And it is kind of sweet that with the very last moment he leaves a message for Eve. Pretty cool ending shot with him hitting the car and then bouncing and landing right in front of the camera, and then like the eye and the heartbeat is like, yeah. But yeah, the movie is pretty creative stuff. it uses the stylization pretty well, and it keeps the energy high for a lot of it. I do think ultimately there are a couple of things that should have been trimmed just a little bit. Like, I feel like it should maybe, yeah, there are a couple of things, like the yeah, like maybe when he's asking for epinephrine, and then, so, oh, nasal spray, and that goes on for a bit longer than it had to. I get it, but I'm just saying, since the idea is to keep the energy high. Also, was that like the guy from Linkin Park? You know, R.I.P. I feel bad for the people who got really into their music and were really upset when. I'm sorry. I think he was the one who died, but I'm not 100% certain. Let's see. I know that one of them died, and I'm pretty sure his first name was Chester. So yeah, the movie is literally 79 minutes long without end credits, and 84 and a half minutes long with them. So, but that is, I mean, they didn't want to overstay their welcome, which is again why I feel like a couple of things should have been trimmed just a time. I also feel like the bit with the like, let me think, the bit with the guy in the scrubs, that also goes on for a little long. Maybe there should have, to keep the pace up. Maybe like every so often he does something to himself during those scenes to like keep the energy up. The way that, at Eve's place, he sticks his hand in the waffle iron. Maybe like if, you know like, I figure there's at least 30 seconds from when he starts asking for epinephrine to when he actually gets it from the crash cart. I feel like, I mean, isn't the idea supposed to be that he's just about to keel? Like, maybe if he, like, grabs, you know, I don't know, would he have access to a scalpel? He gets something, and like he holds it up in frame, and the other guy's like, no, no, I'm looking, I swear, and then, and he's like, it's not for you, and, I don't know, he like cuts, just makes a small cut in some part, like maybe part of his arm or something, just a small cut that'll get the adrenaline going, and keep, keep him going for a little longer, but not in a way that would inhibit his ability to fight, but just, I feel like it goes on for long. Maybe it's because I just got done rewatching Prison Break, and honestly, Prison Break never slows down like that unless it actually means to slow down. There's no scene of Prison Break where it's supposed to be tense, and yet the status quo just keeps, or there isn't a strong enough sense of danger. Because, I mean, ultimately, yeah, he's got a gun and there's like a couple of cops, but it just doesn't feel like a, yeah. That is it for that section. Second section, notes taken before watching. So yeah, this was written and directed by Neville Dean Taylor, who also wrote and directed Crank High Voltage, and directed but didn't write Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance. I gotta admit, parts of that movie feel like it was written by them, but whatever, they weren't apparently. But yeah, and I own Gamer, and I will be covering it, but that's like a couple of months from now, I think. But yeah, after I'll next, next movie is not Crank 2, but the movie after that one of my DVDs is going to be Crank 2. I think, now that the cinemas have started opening back up, I mean, Tenet is like 1 month from now, I must say. Anyway, so Crank 2 and Gamer, and yeah, I looked for a great deal on Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance. I didn't find a great deal of it on it, so I didn't buy it, but maybe I'll do more videos on it down the line. I covered it when I watched it in theaters. And let's see. Yeah, so one of the producers also produced High Voltage, and then three of the producers did a bunch of movies that I've seen. Yeah, Primal Fear, The Gift, Underworld, Aeon Flux, Underworld Evolution, Untraceable, Underworld Rise of the Lycans, and Peppermint, and High Voltage also. And Jason Statham I've seen in Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, Snatch, obviously, Ghosts of Mars. I'm not making excuses for it, but yes, I did watch it. The One, all three Transporter movies, Collateral, the first Death Race movie. Wow. You ever get that thing where if you can't sleep at night, so you're awake for a lot of hours, if you don't eat, then the next day you're gonna be super hungry? Yeah, that just hit me like a wrecking ball. Excuse me, I'm just gonna real quick. It's not a big deal. There are people who have way worse than me. I'm just saying so you understand why the long face. And all three Expendables movies, obviously. Let's see. And Amy Smart, who I've also seen in Road Trip, First Butterfly Effect, Mirrors, and The Town. And the yeah, Jose Pablo Cantillo. I'm sorry. I think that's some reasonable approximation of how you're supposed to pronounce that. Who I've also seen in Elysium and Chappie. And Dwight Yoakam I also saw in Panic Room. So, yeah. Trigger warning, I'm going to be discussing rape, and yeah, I'm not going to hold my index finger up the whole time. I'm going to lower it, and the next time I raise my left index finger and lower it again, then I've stopped talking about it. So, mute and skip ahead if you, yeah. So, yeah, when Chev first starts having sex with Eve, she resists it, and not long after she gets into it too, which implies that it's not actually rape, despite the fact that it's very obviously rape. And it's supposed to be funny that he's raping his girlfriend in public, and people make excuses like, but they're a couple, and she does eventually get into it as well. One of the problems is that a lot of guys don't understand that you cross a line when it's sexual. To a lot of people, the idea of the you know, there's this really part of it is this fraternity kind of thing, college fraternity where they do a lot of extreme things to each other. But even so, they don't understand that, you know, that there's a difference between once it becomes sexual, it's a bigger deal than just like sharpieing someone's face when they're asleep. A prank. And at that point it's like, if you can't handle pranks, you're just not gonna, you're just not gonna be able to be around bros. That's all. A lot of people don't understand. Yeah, the moment you cross into sexual territory, especially with someone who doesn't herself do things like that, so it's even more out of bounds for her, it becomes something else. It's no longer a prank. And yeah, up to this point, I've just been talking about the movie, but I'm going to now get into something from real life. So seriously, if this is something you think is going to bother you, I'm not going to blame you for skipping ahead to when I'm done with this. But yeah, 20 years ago or so, I read something quite disturbing that I remember in great detail to this day. And before anyone says, oh, that's too long ago for it to matter, rape was still quite illegal at the time. It was in a magazine, one of those sections for readers' letters, and yes, it was like, you know, yeah, I don't know what they're, I don't remember what the type of magazine is called, but it's, you know, it was in the same vein as like Hustler or Playboy magazine, or, you know, yeah, again, seriously, if you're uncomfortable with real cases of rape being discussed, you know, yeah, skip ahead to, yeah, until I again raise my left index finger and lower it. A straight male reader had submitted a letter describing a story that he thought was hilarious. He and others were getting very drunk, and one of the people, a woman, passed out. So he thought it would be funny to start raping her. And, like, he describes her waking up and being unable to get away from him. And one of the things I distinctly remember, I remember this verbatim, you know, after describing the fact that she woke up and was unable to get free, he specifically writes, I bet she didn't see that coming. Again, like it was a funny joke. Like there's a, yeah, I think I've pretty much, I'd like to point out that not only did this man rape this woman, he thought that it was so funny that he decided to write into a magazine, and the editor or whoever read that letter and printed it. It wasn't printed as a disturbing example of some people doing terrible things and not realizing how awful they are. It was indeed printed as if this was funny. It was on the same page as actual pranks. So yeah, I have now discussed the rape. Yeah, so the movie, others have pointed, others have made the comparison to Grand Theft Auto. Basically the movie plays as, like, if you, excuse me, play Grand Theft Auto and just like attack everyone you encounter, ignore missions, and to make that concept sound less absurd, they came up with him having to keep up his adrenaline and giving him a personal mission rather than one for someone else, as is often the case in Grand Theft Auto games. But yeah, it very much emulates the experience of just playing and just going completely crazy. Now, let's see. Yeah, so I watched some YouTube videos. In 2009, College Humor did a video called Jason Statham in Diabetes, and it is basically a, yeah, it's a what's it called? Like a parody of this movie, and it has the stuff with him in like the hospital, and but now he has diabetes instead. Sorry, that was very Wilford Brimley on my pronunciation there. It's a very funny parody. And in 2015, Cinema Blend did a video called "There May Be a Crank 3 in the Future," but yeah, the given the fact that that video was 5 years ago and the second movie was like 11 years ago, you know, we might not get a Crank 3, or at least not anytime soon. It would be pretty epic if they, like, after taking some years off because some of the movies didn't do so well, if that was like their big comeback, was like Crank 3. Now, so let's see. Yeah, so excuse me. Yeah, I watched the trailer. it's a perfectly decent trailer, I guess. It doesn't really get you hyped for the movie. I guess I watched the movie, back 9 years ago because of the concept rather than the trailer. It really doesn't give you a good sense of how intense the film is. Only some of the crazy ideas, such as him intentionally using defibrillator pads on himself, not to restart his heart, but to get his pulse up so he can continue despite the virus. But yeah, I gotta say I just recently watched the trailer for the second movie. Now that's a trailer. But then again, I think also a lot of the most fun stuff in the two movies is in the second movie, I think, which I have to, I remember there as being more things I really like, but that's a sequel thing. There are a lot of sequels that make you feel like, well, I guess the first one wasn't. Okay, so this, I think, was this the first? No, wait, yeah, no, sorry. The boot camp was the first of these videos where sorry, sleepiness hitting hard. Okay, so on boot camp, that was the first time it was one of the external reviews on IMDb, and since then I've been reading Vern's reviews and I think he did a really great job on this, and I really appreciate that he actually he makes no bones about the fact that you know the that it's a rape scene, that when when Chev rapes Eve in public, that is rape. That is not, and it's not funny. It's just really messed up. And yeah, see, I just there are so many reviews that just say, I wish it had more of a plot, or I really wish this or that, and you see so few reviews actually mention the rape scene, and I just really think it's just it shouldn't be like that. That should be something that people are bothered by and say we shouldn't have things like this in movies. And it was something that really, because it would be so easy to remove it. It's not, again, keeping in mind, I don't think that it's inherently wrong to show rape in a movie. It's wrong to make it a joke, and it's wrong to show it without showing the consequences. And really, in this movie, essentially, like, despite the rape and then the sexual humiliation of just leaving her there like that, she forgives him, and then later, you know, yeah, starts to give him a blowjob. So, in order to keep his adrenaline flowing quickly. But some of my, I mean, I guess, yeah, no, it's not a spoiler. Monster has at least one rape scene, but that movie is actually about what it does to a person to be raped, and that's one of my favorite movies, like I already mentioned earlier, you know in part because of that. Now, okay, so let me, yeah, see, I don't want to spend forever on this video, and too late now. I Yeah, I'm gonna skim Vern's review of it, and I'm just gonna read aloud or comment on some of the best. I recommend you read it, and I'm gonna, as soon as I reach the bottom of it, I'll let you know what site it is. Right now I can't remember. So it's Speed in a Guy with a Side Order of Revenge. I'll put an inventive thrill ride full of imagination and wit that keeps you constantly involved as it builds to an unbelievable climax. Would be a good way to do this movie. Instead, they went the domino route of, if you throw every stupid show-offy technique you ever saw in a commercial at the screen, technically it counts as entertainment. Wow. Savage. Sorry, brutal. And let's see. And he points out, the that let's see. Yeah, I think I know what they were thinking. He has to keep his adrenaline up, so the movie has to keep its adrenaline up too. But it's flawed logic. And let's see. He points out that, you know, let's see. Yeah, the part where he drives through a mall is not as good as in the Blues Brothers. Let's see. And let's see. Just so you know how hilarious this is, they have the sound of a needle scraping off of a record. Kids today might not know what that sound is, but it's from an old technology called the comedy machine. This is pretty good. That's yeah. Right, the website. Whoops, I did not include the URL. Sorry. Ah, crap. Yeah, but if you like, okay, I'm gonna give. I'm pretty sure if you do a Google search for this, you'll definitely find the site. Verne has been reviewing movies since 1999 and is the author of the books Seagalogy, sorry, studying the ass-kicking films of Steven Seagal, yippee-ki-yay moviegoer, writings on Bruce Willis, badass cinema and other important topics, and Nighttown, a novel, horror action novel Worm on a Hook will arrive later this year. So, you know, if you search for at least a chunk of that in Google, you should be able to find. Okay, so yeah, I'm not gonna lie, part of me really wants to end the video here, but I guess I'm gonna skim the, yeah, so, final section, critic sites, IMDb, and Wikipedia. Yeah, it has a 61% on the tomato meter and a 71% audience score. And I think that, yeah, you know, so yeah, so real quick, 57 fresh critic ratings and 37 rotten, and the average audience score is 3.69. I think that's a 5. So, you know, with 442,880 ratings, user ratings. So that gives you an idea of, you know, a lot of the people who liked hearing about the concept and found the movie actually did, you know, yeah, they did like the movie. Yeah, and see this, I'm gonna, yeah, from a Rotten Tomatoes critic review. It's a promising concept, but instead of expending effort on, say, a coherent script, the filmmakers lazily rely on cheap editing tricks and gleefully relentless sadism. And that's, yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so a monotonously mindless but colorful caper, Crank is banally boisterous, jolting junk that strangely is filling in its sneering, rambunctious spirit. a somewhat entertaining movie of the politically incorrect, testosterone-laden, brainless, pure action variety. It boils down to 83 minutes of Chev journeying through LA's ethnic hoods, dispatching minorities. Granted, the movie can't be taken seriously, its cavalier racism is shocking. And excuse me. Vulgar, ridiculous, offensive, and absolutely riveting. Excuse me. Now, let's see. Snazzy but vacuous, the cinematic equivalent of a fast food meal with thousands of calories, but precious. Oh, excuse me. Scroll too fast. Precious little nutrition. Very well put. Okay. Okay, so yeah, see, this guy says idiotic sex scenes. I don't know. I guess it's possible that you know technically there's Verona at one point gets a blowjob, so it's possible that he's not calling the rape scene idiotic, but it is like the yeah, the part that bothers him is that it's idiotic, not that it's harmful. The yeah. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be singling anybody out, but just let's see. And right, sorry, and we're into the um, that was Rotten Tomatoes user review, and now we've reached Metacritic critic reviews, and one of them calls it the movie a Saw for the action crowd. That's yeah. First-time feature directors Mark Neveldine and Brian Taylor play with speed and sound to effectively recreate the buzz of an over-caffeinated all-nighter, delivering one of the year's best pure junk food entertainments. Very well put. And Yeah, so and Metacritic user reviews. I want to real quick say I'm not saying that everybody who doesn't bring up the that it's who doesn't point out that it's rape and bring up how offensive and potentially harmful it is. I'm not saying that they're all like, it doesn't mean that you don't care. It just speaks to that a lot of guys almost feel kind of bad about calling out when women are being treated really badly, because a lot of we fear that other guys will think less of us because we express that opinion. And I think it speaks more to a culture than that. Yeah, I'm not saying that that it actually is that the people who don't mention it, that they don't care. It's just the culture that says that we shouldn't make a big deal out of things like that is, yeah, it is harmful, because when you don't call it out when you see it in fiction, you might not call it out when you see it in reality either. There might be people who, I mean, they might not end up in that same situation, but they might think it's funny to try to maybe not rape their girlfriend in public, but like feel her up in public, or maybe not. Forget the in public thing. Just they they might think that it's somehow okay to do something sexually with another person that that goes out of the boundaries of consent. That's that's a problem, because a lot of people do that, and a lot of survivors feel uncomfortable coming forward, and the low percentage of survivors who do come forward very rarely see any kind of justice. Now, let's see. Yeah, one person says the movie is basically like a trip, a 90-minute trip. And yeah, see, and this person was this was a painful film to watch. It just tried so hard. That is a pretty good. Excuse me. Yeah, I think that's something that might resonate with Neville Dean Taylor. Crank comes across like the demented daydream of an ADD teen. But I do think it's worth noting that there are people who were more or less in the, you know, in the intended demographic for this movie who really don't like it. In fact, some of them absolutely hate it. Here we have someone who says the sex scenes are done so distastefully. I think that's a good, yeah. Let's see. Excuse me, my back. It's absolutely okay. Let's see. Yeah. Sorry about the dead air. Okay, here we go. Yeah. Onto stuff from IMDb. As usual, I recommend you read all the stuff for yourself, but I just wanted to highlight a few and comment on. In the restaurant scene, when Jason Statham was explaining to Amy Smart what he did, her hiccups were genuine. I'm really glad that they made sure to keep them in or edit them in, or those her. It was just, yeah. It's very, yeah. And apparently Jason Statham did all of his own fight and car stunts. Yeah, and here's also in the public sex scene, all the non-actors' reactions to the scene were real. And that again just brings up, like, nobody went over. I don't know. I guess it's possible that someone did and they just edited it out, or like yelled at them. No, you can't. You have to react in some other way. You can't do that. But like, I mean, I like to think that if I was there, I would run over and tell him, dude, you are. She said no. No means no. Let her go. Let's see. Although a non-stop action film, only a single explosion occurs. The film has a number of references to video games, especially the early Grand Theft Auto series. Early in the film, Chev states to Kalo that he's going to get Verona if it's the last thing he does, then decides that it may actually be the last thing he does. He then pulls Verona out of a helicopter at the very end of the movie, making it seemingly the last thing he does. However, the very last thing he actually did was phone his girlfriend and leave a message on her answering machine. And let's see, that brings us to, yeah, so this is, let me think for a second. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is YouTube. Yeah, it's got to be YouTube, IMDb. Sorry, there's a stupid IMDb. Yes, was that a reference to Deadpool 1? Wow, or possibly to whatever Deadpool 1 was referencing. IMDb user reviews. Yes, here we go. Knew I'd get there eventually. So, I am going to skim through so that I don't end up wasting a lot of some point out that again it's like a video game. Right, and I of course realize about the rape scene. It is supposed to be, they realize that this is offensive. This is going to offend people. The it's like the um, they get that there's a lot of really racist and misogynistic stuff in this movie, but they, let me think. you know, that's part. It's supposed to be part of the appeal. You know, look at how edgy we are and such. Excuse me. Yeah, here we go. This is a yeah. This person gave it a 1 out of 10, and again, this is an IMDb user review. There's a scene in this movie where the main character needs a boost of adrenaline, so in the middle of Chinatown, he starts ripping off his girlfriend's clothing. She yells no, no, and he continues to rape her. She eventually gives in and starts liking having sex in public, so it turns out to be okay. And yeah, and then he points out the bit about the nasal spray, and then he says, I'm all about films that blur the line of good and bad. I'm all about films with characters that have questionable morality. But this film completely glorifies such horrible things with no sense of irony. And yeah. And this one line summary says nothing more than a director's demo reel. Oh, but yeah, and here's another review that points out about yeah this one line summary is offensive and absurd, and this also points out that the sex is forced. And yeah, so let's see. That's everything that I noted as being especially interesting to get to. Yeah, I really maybe I mean it's probably good that I stopped this video now, but I was a little worried that I was gonna be more. I didn't think I was gonna fall asleep on camera, which still hasn't happened. Something I'm more proud of than I should be. But yeah, it wasn't as anywhere near as bad as I feared that it might be or get. So, in closing, I'm still not saying that the movie is not funny. And I appreciate that they are clearly trying to, it's not just, they're not doing it without realizing that it's offensive. But the, huh, yeah, so let me think. Um, I do think it does a pretty good job of staying creative and using the stylization. Not just like showing off, but actually like the among other things, I think it works well when, like, when he just took a specific drug and he is now feeling a certain effect of it, and they show that through stylization. I thought that was. I will say, it's probably funnier if you think that the mere act of taking drugs is in and of itself funny. That there doesn't have to be something like I would definitely say there were times where it was funny in this, but there were also times where it just was like, well, they thought that it would be funny if, but yeah, the I think there are some decently creative, like, the bit with the car on the escalator, and the fight in the helicopter, and there are various things in the movie that are legitimately kind of, you didn't, what's the word, like the you didn't think that you didn't expect to see that sort of thing, you know. Although I think those are actually in the trailer. But anyway, yeah. So let's see. I might watch it again. I don't think that, like, ultimately, like, the stuff that bothers me is the rape and how it's supposed to be funny, and the misogyny and racism, and it's there are definitely there are a lot of things to love about the movie, and yeah, I might watch it again. I do think that there are definitely things that feel, excuse me, and overall I do, I agree with Vern that it's flawed logic, that the movie has to be as intense as, it has to keep its energy up constantly. I do like the concept, and I think some of the time the movie does a really good job, especially when it keeps to that. That's the thing. I think that, you know I I kind of wish that they had gone more the Prison Break route, where basically an action scene never ever outstays its welcome. Like, the yeah, yeah. I think that's the whole thing. So I am gonna, yeah. So I hope you enjoy.